He walked into court with the kind of smile that tells you he thinks the room belongs to him. Tailored suit, gold watch flashing under the lights, chin tilted just enough to say, "I'm richer than all of you combined," and before a single word of testimony began, he had already done something dangerous. He underestimated the woman sitting behind that bench. You see, some defendants arrived nervous. Some arrived defensive. But this man? He arrived entertained, like this was a lunch break inconvenience. Like the cameras, the clerk, the audience, even the plaintiff were all background actors in a little performance, designed to waste his valuable time. He smirked at the bailiff, whispered jokes to his attorney, rolled his eyes when his name was called. This wasn't confidence anymore. This was calculated disrespect, and the plaintiff noticed it too. Across the room sat a middle-aged woman clutching a folder so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Her face carried that exhausted look people get when they've been dismissed too many times. Not just cheated, humiliated. She wasn't here because she wanted revenge. She was here because she wanted someone, finally, to listen. But the businessman looked at her and laughed. Actually laughed. That tiny moment changed the emotional temperature of the courtroom. You could hear murmurs from the gallery, because laughter in court is never just laughter. It's a dominance move, a psychological tactic. It says you are too small to hurt me. Manipulators love this strategy. They don't fight facts first. They attack dignity. And then Judge Judy entered. No smile. No wasted motion. Just that sharp, surgical stare that has dismantled more egos than cross-examinations ever could. She sat down, glanced once at the businessman, and within seconds seemed to understand exactly what kind of man she was dealing with. He kept smiling. Big mistake. Because there is one thing arrogant people consistently fail to recognize. The louder the ego, the more satisfying the collapse. And Judge Judy has built an entire courtroom career on waiting for that collapse with perfect patience. She asked the first routine question. The businessman answered with sarcasm. The audience chuckled nervously. Judge Judy did not. Instead, she leaned back, narrowed her eyes, and said a sentence so calm it almost sounded harmless. "Sir, I hope for your sake your paperwork is better than your attitude." He smirked again. What he didn't know was that one small receipt buried somewhere in this case was about to destroy everything. The man introduced himself as Daniel Mercer, owner of a regional luxury furniture chain, the kind of businessman who put his own face on billboards and his name on every showroom window. Even the way he said his occupation carried a rehearsed superiority, as if success itself should exempt him from scrutiny. He spoke loudly, confidently, and with that polished corporate tone people use when they are used to controlling every room they enter. But here's what made the atmosphere uncomfortable. He never once looked at the plaintiff as he spoke about her. That is not accidental. When someone refuses eye contact in a dispute, it often signals one of two things: shame or dehumanization. And Daniel Mercer was not ashamed. He had mentally reduced this woman to an annoyance, a customer complaint, a number on a ledger. That cold detachment is what made him dangerous. The plaintiff, Linda Harper, was the opposite in every visible way. No expensive lawyer, no dramatic performance, just a simple blouse, trembling hands, and a thick accordion file packed with receipts, emails, and handwritten notes. She had purchased nearly $12,000 worth of custom furniture for her new home. Items Daniel's company promised would arrive within 6 weeks. Instead, months passed. Deliveries came broken, incomplete, or not at all. Refund promises were made, then ignored. Calls were transferred endlessly. Emails disappeared into silence. This wasn't just a bad transaction. This was systematic exhaustion, a classic business intimidation tactic. Delay, confuse, and outlast the customer until they surrender. Large companies know most people don't have the money or emotional stamina to keep fighting. Daniel was betting Linda would eventually give up, just like the others probably had. But she didn't, and that alone irritated him. When Judge Judy asked Linda why she had taken the matter this far, the woman swallowed hard, opened her folder, and said quietly, "Because he thought I was stupid." The courtroom went still. Daniel smiled again, this time with a tiny shake of his head, like he was listening to fiction. His attorney even scribbled something and slid him a note, both of them visibly relaxed. They believed this was still a paperwork dispute, a delayed shipment issue, a customer service misunderstanding. They had no idea this was becoming personal. Judge Judy extended her hand for the documents. Linda hesitated, then pulled out a stack of printed emails, and hidden among them was a message that made Judge Judy stop reading mid-sentence. Her eyebrow lifted. Daniel's smile faded for the first time. Judge Judy adjusted her glasses and read the email again, slower this time, as if she wanted every syllable to sink into the wood-paneled silence of that courtroom. Her face did not change much, but that was the unsettling part. With her, the calmer she became, the worse the situation usually was for whoever sat in the defendant's chair. Linda sat frozen, watching. Daniel shifted for the first time. Now pay attention here, because this is where arrogance starts cracking under pressure. Confident liars are comfortable when facts are broad. Shipping delays, miscommunication, clerical issue. Those are foggy terms, easy to dance inside. But the moment a precise written statement appears, the room gets smaller, much smaller. Judge Judy looked up. "Mr. Mercer, did someone from your office send this email to Ms. Harper?" Daniel leaned toward his attorney, forced a half-law, then answered, "I'd have to review context, Your Honor." Classic stalling tactic. He didn't deny it. He asked for context. That means he already sensed danger. Judge Judy read aloud, "Customer is becoming emotionally unstable. Continue postponing refund until she stops contacting corporate." A gasp escaped from the gallery. Linda's eyes filled instantly, not because she was hearing it for the first time, but because hearing it spoken publicly validated every humiliating month she had endured. Think about that psychological damage for a second. It wasn't merely negligence. They had internally mocked her distress and weaponized bureaucracy against her. Daniel quickly straightened in his seat. "Your Honor, that could have been written by a lower-level employee, I personally." "Be quiet," Judge Judy snapped, and then silence, the kind of silence that feels heavier than shouting. She tapped the paper with one finger. The sender's signature block says Daniel Mercer, CEO. "Would you like to explain to me how your own name accidentally appears under a message calling this woman emotionally unstable?" His attorney's pen stopped moving. Daniel blinked. The smirk was gone now, replaced by something far more revealing, calculation under panic. His mind was racing, searching for a plausible narrative, a technical excuse, a software glitch, anything. But his body betrayed him. Tight jaw, dry swallow, fingers gripping the armrest. This was no longer customer service theater. This was credibility collapse. And Judge Judy wasn't finished, because she had just noticed a date printed at the bottom of that email, a date that directly contradicted Daniel's sworn testimony from 5 minutes earlier. Judge Judy lowered the email onto her desk with almost ceremonial precision, then flipped back to her handwritten notes. "Interesting," she murmured. Not loud, not dramatic, but in a courtroom, that single word can feel like a guillotine being tested before it drops. She looked directly at Daniel. "Mr. Mercer, you testified under oath that on March 14th your company had already processed Ms. Harper's refund request, correct?" Daniel cleared his throat. "Yes, Your Honor, that was my understanding." My understanding. Listen carefully to phrases like that. They are verbal escape hatches. People use them when they want flexibility later. It sounds cooperative, but psychologically it creates room to retreat. Daniel was trying to leave himself an exit. Judge Judy held up the email. "This message from you, dated March 22nd, says, and I quote, continue postponing refund. So which is it? Was the refund processed on the 14th, or were you instructing staff to delay it on the 22nd? Daniel opened his mouth, closed it. His attorney whispered urgently. The courtroom leaned in, and this is the point where spectators stop watching a case and start witnessing a dismantling, because everyone could feel the same thing. He had walked in rehearsed for a contract dispute, but he was now trapped in a timeline contradiction. Facts are unforgiving when dates line up against ego. Daniel finally spoke. There may have been internal procedural confusion, another corporate shield, vague, bloodless, designed to make intentional cruelty sound like paperwork. Judge Judy wasn't buying a second of it. No, sir, she said coldly. This is not confusion, this is strategy. Linda covered her mouth, trembling. Judge Judy continued scanning the plaintiff's file, and suddenly she stopped at a tiny white slip stapled behind the email chain. At first glance, it looked insignificant, ordinary retail clutter. But experienced judges know truth often hides in what arrogant people think nobody will inspect. She pulled it free. A receipt. Just one receipt. Daniel noticed it, and his face drained so quickly it was almost cinematic. That involuntary reaction told the entire room more than testimony ever could. There are moments when the body confesses before the mouth has a chance. Judge Judy read the header, then slowly looked up. Oh, now I understand exactly what you did. Even Daniel's attorney leaned over in visible alarm, because this was not a shipping receipt. This was proof of something much uglier. Judge Judy held the receipt between two fingers like it was contaminated. In a sense it was. Not with dirt, but with intent. And intent is everything in court. Mistakes can be forgiven. Delays can be explained. But deliberate deception? That changes the entire moral gravity of a case. She read the item description aloud. Custom Italian sectional sofa, sold to another client. March 16th. Linda looked confused for half a second. Then realization hit her face like a physical blow. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Let me explain why this moment was explosive. Linda had paid in full for that exact custom sofa months earlier. The centerpiece of her order, the item Daniel's company repeatedly claimed, was still in transit from the manufacturer. But according to this internal sales receipt, the furniture had arrived, and Daniel's showroom resold it to a walk-in customer for a higher price after market demand increased. This wasn't a delayed delivery, this was double selling, a ruthless profit tactic. Keep the original customer trapped in refund limbo while flipping their paid merchandise for more money. Corporate theft disguised as logistics. Judge Judy's eyes locked on Daniel. You lied to this woman for weeks because you made more money selling her furniture to somebody else. Daniel's attorney immediately stood. Your Honor, we need to clarify inventory circumstances. Sit down. Judge Judy fired back. And then came the viral moment. Daniel, cornered beyond repair, made the fatal mistake arrogant people always make when exposure feels inevitable. He got angry. He slammed his palm on the table. It was a business decision. Gasps. Audible gasps. Not an accident, not a misunderstanding. A business decision. In one uncontrolled sentence, he confessed the psychology underneath everything. Linda was never a customer to him. She was expendable cash flow. Her stress, her calls, her humiliation, acceptable collateral. Judge Judy leaned forward, voice low and lethal. So your business decision was to steal her money, insult her sanity, and pray she was too powerless to fight back. Daniel said nothing. Because there was nothing left, the smile from part one, gone, the swagger, gone. All that remained was a sweating man, realizing millions of viewers would remember this exact expression forever. But Judge Judy had one final ruling left, and it was about to hit harder than Daniel imagined. Judge Judy folded her hands, stared at Daniel Mercer for several long seconds, and allowed the silence to punish him before her words did. That technique matters. Powerful judges understand that consequences begin psychologically before they begin financially. Daniel was already shrinking in his seat, no longer the billboard CEO, no longer the amused businessman who had entered smiling. He looked smaller now, human, vulnerable, exposed. Then Judge Judy spoke. Judgment for the plaintiff. Full $12,000, court costs, and I am referring these documents for consumer fraud review. And just like that, the room exhaled. Linda burst into tears, not loud, dramatic television tears. Those exhausted tears people cry when they've spent months being told they are irrational, difficult, overreacting, and suddenly someone in authority says, "No, you were right." Violation can be more healing than money. Daniel's attorney leaned in frantically, whispering, but Daniel didn't respond. He stared blankly at the desk, jaw twitching, because this was bigger than losing a civil claim. His polished public image had just been ripped open by his own paperwork. In business, reputation is oxygen, and millions watching a CEO admit it was a business decision after reselling a customer's paid furniture, that clip doesn't disappear. Judge Judy delivered the final blow. Sir, successful people think long-term. Crooks think they're the smartest person in the room. Today proved you are neither. And there it was, the moral center of this entire case. Arrogance makes people careless. Power makes them dismissive. But documented truth is patient. One receipt, one overlooked piece of paper. That was all it took to collapse months of manipulation, lies, and mockery. Daniel Mercer entered court believing money could outlast accountability. He left learning the lesson every entitled fraud eventually learns. The moment you treat ordinary people like they are too small to matter, you create the very witness who destroys you. And somewhere behind that bench, Judge Judy never smiled, because she had seen this kind of man before too many times.